Hello students, coming up to our next class in ELR, we are learning about Tintern Abbey, where I had explained you all beforehand how William Wordsworth has described us the Tintern Abbey, returning back after 5 years to it. Now when I read this part, these beauteous forms through a long absence have not been to me, are as is a landscape to a blind man's eye. But oft in lonely rooms and mid the din of towns and cities I have ode to them. In hours of weariness, sensations sweet, felt in the blood and felt along the heart, and passing even into my purer mind, with tranquil restoration feelings too, of unremembered pleasure, such perhaps as have no slight or trivial influence on that best portion of a good man's life, his little nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and of love. Now, what does the poet tell us by these lines? He tells us that there are nomadic herdsmen here, I told you all beforehand. They move from place to place. There are hermits too who live in seclusion here in these caves. All these remain intact for 5 long years in his mind. He had been weighed down by the course of city life, but still the memory of the place remained in his mind. He feasts his eyes with the landscape. It has brought peace to his troubled mind. Okay. Now coming up next here. Nor less I trust, to them I may have owed another gift, of aspect more sublime, that blessed mood, in which the burthen of the mystery, burthen here means burden, in which the heavy and the weary weight of all this unintelligible world is lightened, the serene and blessed mood in which the affections gently lead us on, until the breath of this corporeal frame and even the motion of our human blood, almost suspended, we are laid asleep in body and become a living soul, while with an eye made quiet by the power of harmony and the deep power of joy, we see into the life of things. What does he mean here? The poet means to tell us that the poet concludes nature's sublime face here and its soothing features that banish the caves and anxieties from the mind of the poet. Everyone can feast their eyes with the beauty of the landscape. He calms his frayed nerves till he reaches a state of absolute rest. This state of tranquility and peace cannot be attained when a person is engrossed in worldly affairs. It is an inner self-experience and a matter of harmony and joy for him to live near the Tintern Abbey after 5 years. Now coming up to your question answers here, which we have given as from 1 to 5 we have given beforehand. So question number 6 here. What kind of a burden is lifted from the shoulders and how does he feel? When I tell you all the answer, just follow it. The burden of the mystery of the beautiful landscape is lifted from his shoulders. The poet feels peaceful and blessed after returning back to the Tintern Abbey after 5 years. Question number 7. How do you think does the spiritual peace help to understand the essence of things? We find that Wordsworth was overwhelmed by the beauty of the Tintern Abbey. He feels and pauses under the sycamore of trees. He looks at the cottages, feels the orchards and the fruit-laden trees. He feels that there are lots of vegetation and many more beauty that lie in the Tintern Abbey. There are chimneys giving out smoke which comes out from between the trees and lots more. Thus we find that the spiritual peace which he gets at the Tintern Abbey helps him to understand the essence of things. Question number 8. Describe the scene in the poem. Bring out the rustic elements in it. Now what is the scene in the poem? I told you all that Wordsworth visits the place Tintern Abbey along the bank of River Wye after a gap of 5 years. So what is the scene he finds there? He finds the same stream flowing down the cliffs of rocks, the steep slopes that are same and look as majestic as before. The sky looks as calm as before, and altogether the solitude of the surroundings are the same. Now what are the rustic elements in it? He finds the rustic elements are the stream flowing down, the cliffs of rocks, the steep slopes, the sky that looks as calm as before, and also the solitude of the surroundings. So here, question number 9. Do you think that the speaker has got a spiritual connection with nature? Coming up to the answer, we find that yes, the speaker has got a spiritual connection with nature. We find that the poet feels nature with an eye towards its relation with human mind. And what are the examples from the poem we find? There are lots of examples which we find where we find that the poet has got a spiritual connection with nature. We can find out the examples later on. I'll be telling you all the examples later on in your PDFs. So till here this much. We'll be returning back with our next video in our next class. Okay, thank you.